Hi there, welcome to the Boy Theology Podcast. My name is Nigel, your host, and in this podcast, we explore the themes of faith, religion, and spirituality, particularly through my lens as a queer person of color who is currently in seminary pursuing a Master's of Divinity. I hope that through sharing my experiences and insights, you may be able to see and experience this world and your life with more awareness and groundedness. Thank you for listening, and here is to the episode. Hi guys, this is Nigel, and this is the first episode of this podcast. I just feel like I need to do this week. If I don't, I would never get into doing this. And so this is the first podcast, and I don't know what I'm doing, seriously. But I just know that I need to get started, and this is my try. So let's see. But I'm very, very committed to starting this podcast because I feel like I have so many things to say and to share. And all these years is just like inside of me as a internal dialogue. But now I want to just put it out there because I feel like we need this. The world needs more truth, and we who have it, we should share it. So a little bit more about me. I am based in San Francisco, California, and I attend a church called City Church San Francisco. I am a worship vocalist, so I'm in the ministry. Currently, I am in seminary as well, and this is a decision that is very supported by my partner and also the church. So I'm very, very thankful for that. I'm doing a Master's of Divinity in this school called Garrett Evangelical, and it is in Evanston, pretty close to Chicago. And I will keep the story of how this whole thing of getting into seminary to another episode because it's just so many different like signs, and it was only in retrospect that like I can see how things are just aligning. I identify as a queer person. I am gay, and I have a partner. I am a person of color. So originally, I'm from Singapore, and then I moved to the US about 10 years ago. I identify as Chinese, and that's my ethnicity. And in America, I would, call myself an immigrant. Yeah, so I do not have a citizenship in the US, and I think I'm quite committed to keeping my Singapore citizenship because I just think that the Singapore citizenship is more valuable. But I think a lot of people coming to the US, their goal, I don't know if it's still a lot of people, but I would say like many people when they come to the US, their goal is to, get a green card and then eventually they get the citizenship. But that's not for me, I think. Yes, I will be, of course, sharing a lot of experiences about being in Singapore and then even moving here, comparing those experiences, particularly my religious, spiritual experiences. So I did attend a church in Singapore, and then I kind of left Christianity. And in the US right now, I recently just joined City Church. I've been there for like a year now. And so I would love to talk about the experiences, how different or how similar it is, and what faith and spirituality means to me, because I feel like I've changed so much. And my concept of God, of spirituality, and of this world, why are we here? What are we to do? Who are we? It has just gone through such a evolution. And so I would love to talk more about this. So why am I suddenly wanting to do this podcast? As I said before, I think we need to put out our truth into the world because there is an opposing side, there's another side that I feel like it's a lot of negativity or information that might not be helpful. So I feel like it is time for me to use my voice. I have been wanting to do something like this, like sharing for, maybe 1 or 2 years already, but I've just never really taken the step. But I'm glad that I also taken the time to kind of like heal and kind of like revisit my past, and also, well, going to therapy and getting some help. And then I have the time to process and grow. And so then I can bring a more mature self that has more awareness to this podcast. And of course, I'm not saying that like I am fully aware now. The thing is, even over this past week, I feel like there's so much that I need to work with. And then there's also so much that I just like learned about, and so I want to also share the resources that I'm accessing, and the books I'm reading, or the podcasts, or the songs I'm listening to just share with you how expensive spiritual life can be. I'm not by any means perfect, like nowhere. And I feel like, maybe years down the road, if I just listen to what I said, I would be like, oh, wow, like you did not just say that, but it was the old you, right? It was the older you with the old mindsets, the old set of beliefs. And so, yes, moving forward, I would want to document as honestly as possible. I feel like something that's been stopping me from putting my voice out there. I also do a YouTube channel where I post like plants videos, and I just wasn't comfortable with posting myself in video form or in audio form online, and it might be due to some traumas, but also this fear that like what if I'll be judged by what I said, or even I feel like it's more about me judging myself, me judging my old self. And I feel like this is something that is a pattern that I do a lot, and definitely something that I need to talk to my therapist about. But I feel like you would be able to also relate to this, that we are our own worst critic. And for me, I feel like, okay, if I put something out right now, or no matter when I put it out, the future me will always be wiser and thus having the authority to critique. And I'm just so afraid. I was just so afraid of putting something out there and then regretting. And then, like, what if somebody use it against me? Like, okay, so I was telling myself, I need to progress into a level, into a self that is not too, I guess, like flawed. I want to stop that procrastination, that cycle, that hesitation that says you gotta wait until this point, until you are this good, until you know everything, you got the tech down, or somebody come and teach you, and you have learned how to deal with things. Well, particularly also like I'm not good with technology. So I just have been going through a lot of these emotions, and then I have a lot of ideas that I want to talk about, and I'm like, oh, but then I don't have the podcast yet. So I can't share this idea that I really really like, this thing that I recently learned that I feel like it's so helpful to me and might be helpful to somebody else. And so, yes, I think that it is time for me to put my voice out there, and perhaps maybe it's time for you too to do something that you have thought about, and you just know. You just know right in your gut that like this is something that you need to do. And I feel like a lot of times you have anxiety. I have anxiety. We have anxiety because we know that we are to do something. Something needs to be done. Something needs to kind of be realized, be materialized out of us. But then the thing is, like, we don't take action. And so then there's this kind of push from the inside, and then also you suppressing it, pushing it down, and say, nope, not now. I'm not ready. And then there's this internal struggle that causes a lot of cortisol, a lot of stress hormones in you, and that causes you to, have thoughts that's just spinning in your head, this anxiety, or you get depressed because of this energy that wants to come out, but you are just pushing it down. This energy that's stored, it's not only bad for our mental health, it's also bad for the body. I didn't know that I had so much that needs to be said, that needs to come out of me. I just thought that, I will just cycle through all these thoughts. I'll just cycle through all these stories that I been telling myself or I want to really share with somebody else because it might be helpful to somebody else. But yeah, I've just been pushing it down and be like, nah, it's okay. And then I live with so much anxiety and so much like repeated uh, dialogue inside of me. And so, this podcast, I really hope that it's helpful to you, but it's also going to be helpful to me. I really don't know how this is going to go, but yes, I do want to make this very structured so that in every episode I'll be talking about something very specific. And I hope and I pray that I can be very, very consistent with recording and then putting these things out. And the thing is, I tell this all the time to people like, we're not here to be perfect, you know, we're just here to progress. So we practice so that we can progress, not practice to be perfect. We'll never be perfect. And so I hope that as I record and as I just post and get into this cadence, it's going to get easier and easier for me. It's definitely a skill that I want to hone. And so I hope that it's going to get easier for me and I get into a cadence. And so I'll be just producing the episodes and make this thing a real thing, a permanent thing, or something. But yes, besides this podcast, I'm also doing a podcast with my worship director Jason for my church. We call it a worship podcast. So you can go to City Church San Francisco on Apple Music or on Spotify or on YouTube, and you can search for these episodes, and they are actually filmed and recorded. So if you want to watch me and Jason dialogue, you can go to YouTube and watch those episodes. So thank you, and this is the first episode, and I cannot wait to tell you more about my life. Thank you so much for listening. This is Nigel, and this is Boy Theology.